Unfortunately, PC ports can be something of a hit or miss, especially for Square Enix, whose more recent releases like Chrono Trigger, older Final Fantasy titles ports, and Nier Automata on PC have been pretty rough and less than ideal. And now with Final Fantasy VII Remake making its way to PC, people are keeping their fingers crossed that take their time with this one and ensure that there'd be a wide array of settings for players to tweak, that the performance would be well optimized for a wide variety of graphics cards, so on and so forth. But so far, the Final Fantasy VII Remake port for PC has proven to be something widely criticized because it is just not a good port. And in fact, some are calling it one of the worst PC ports they've seen in a very long time. Now, out of the gate, one of the most controversial aspects of this PC port is its price. This game costs $70, and at $70, you'd expect the best version of the game. You'd expect something that feels relatively next-gen or current-gen now. And you wouldn't expect the issues that Final Fantasy VII Remake's PC port is currently facing. There's also the fact that this PC port is currently exclusive to the Epic Games Store. We have seen a number of games do this, and seldom do people celebrate such an occurrence. Most people prefer Steam because it's just the far superior launcher and platform with far more features. I mean, it was only recently that Epic Games Store added a shopping cart, and it's still missing many more features that PC players tend to enjoy on Steam, so that exclusivity and having to partake in an inferior platform and launcher to play this game, or having to wait months or, maybe a year to engage with this title on Steam, that's just been frustrating. Layer that on top of the $70 price point, and things are already off to a rocky start. But maybe these are things that some might be able to overlook if the FF7 Remake PC port itself ran well, was well optimized, and did things that justified its $70 price point. But then you look at headlines like this: Final Fantasy VII Remake called the worst AAA PC port in a long time, and you start reconsidering whether the PC port is worth buying, at least right now. This harsh opinion comes from none other than someone at Digital Foundry who, for a living, analyze, footage and frame rates and performance of video games. Alexander Battaglia tweeted the following on December 17th, 2021. He said, "As I mentioned, I'm not covering Final Fantasy VII Remake, yet the stutters that happen as we immediately get in-game rendered graphics are just unacceptable. Anyone testing and playing this game on PC before release should surely realize that your cinematic game should not do that." He then tweeted once more later that day, "By the way, RTSS does not seem to pick up the frame rate issues really in FF7 Remake, as far as I can tell. It is telling you the game is running at 60 frames when it sure as hell is not. Presentmon is not reflecting what is on screen. I saw this before in the Medium at launch and No Man's Sky OGL." For some reason, these stress testing tools are saying one thing when the reality is that there are definitely stutters that are not being reflected in the data. And yeah, when it comes to frame rate drops, it's very easy to feel, especially if you're there playing the game, and they can certainly be pretty visible when the stutters are severe enough, and I'll get to that in a bit as I show you some footage from a number of outlets that highlight just how prevalent the stutter issues are. Alexander Battaglia then tweeted again that same day, "I never really do this since I usually cover this in a video, but add Ollie Mack or Oliver Mackenzie, another member of Digital Foundry, is going to be on this when I am on holiday, but this is just one brief moment in the first 5 minutes of the game. Spinning the camera causes a sustained drop and then a big stutter. RTSS does not see it, but Digital Foundry's own tools definitely do, and you can see the steady frame rate here and then the big dip from a mere camera turn." Now, some people might be wondering, well, what are his PC specs? I mean, given that they're Digital Foundry, of course they're going to have top-of-the-line stuff, and indeed, Alexander confirmed here that his PC's decked out with a 3090. I think the Matrix Awakens demo, Mesh Fence, has met its match, at least on a performance level, really giving that RTX 3090 a workout. You can see right here as the character approaches the fence, the frame rate takes a significant hit down to even less than 50 frames per second. 49 frames per second is what's seen here in this particular analysis. And you've got a number of prominent content creators who got a review copy of the PC port of Final Fantasy VII Remake reporting similar things. Susie Hunter, for example, said, "I just got code for the PC port, and after 5 minutes of playing, man, it is not a good PC port. Holy cyber cow," reporting basically the exact same thing as Digital Foundry, who even 5 minutes in immediately noticed these stutters. Next up, we got some feedback from John Linman, who is a prominent video producer at Digital Foundry, who added additional context by saying, "Alex sent his clips over for us to check out, and yeah, the PC port of FF7 Remake is terrible. He captured this using an RTX 3090 plus 10900K CPU at just 1080p, and it's a mess." At just 1080p? Wow. The smooth presentation was central to its storytelling, and this version compromises it. So not even running at 4K, not even running at 1440p, and getting a wide range of performance issues and frame rate stutter issues. That's pretty bad. Bad enough that Alex, when speaking to folks at Reset Era, just kind of put it out there very bluntly by stating, "This is literally the worst AAA release I've seen on PC in a good long time. I humbly submit that no one should buy it, at least not until all this stuff is tangibly fixed." But with Square Enix's inconsistent history of post-PC launch patches and releases for roughly launch PC ports, Nier Automata, I'm looking at you. Who knows how long it'll take or whether it'll be fixed at all. Whether modders will have to get on it, essentially. I mean, modders have already fixed one issue that many players have had with this port. The fact that FF7 Remake uses dynamic resolution scaling on consoles as well as on PC, but on PC, there is no option to disable it, so now there's already a mod to disable dynamic resolution. On top of the performance issues, the graphic settings in Final Fantasy VII Remake PC port are woefully lacking, with PC Gamer's article reporting no variable frame option, no way to tweak anti-aliasing, toggle VSync, or control effects like motion blur. The port also doesn't let you control resolution scaling. And what's baffling is that this isn't reflective of PC ports that Square Enix has released in the past, like the Final Fantasy 15 PC port, which featured far more options. Even the Kingdom Hearts 3 PC port, which leaves something to be desired in terms of tweaking settings, still has far more options than the barren FF7 Remake. And you can see the graphic settings right here for yourself and how meager these options are. You can basically tweak frame rates, and it's, all locked up to a certain point. You cannot just completely unlock frame rates. And in terms of tweaking elements of effects, texture and shadow resolution are the ones that are prominently featured. Some dynamic range aspects, and that's about it. And then you've got some HDR options and UI brightness, and this is just unacceptable for a PC port that's charging a whopping $70 for a game that's a couple years old now, and just having extra graphics, settings, and whistles that the initial release of the game didn't have because it released on last-gen consoles. That's not enough justification to raise the price from $60 to $70 for a game that has been out for a couple years now. And then you layer that on top of the performance issues that make this kind of the less ideal version of the game. You can see footage here showing the stutters, and I hope this is something that'll come across to you guys, though, when I checked this video out, it seemed pretty apparent. So here we go. Here's the footage of this one particular YouTube user. Right here, you'll see it a lot. Yep. Right there. That was pretty noticeable. Yep. Pretty self-explanatory. And it isn't just this one clip, which has been spreading quite a bit. Oh my god, I mean, this is nauseating levels of stuttering, where it's frequent enough where, yeah, it would make it a pain to play and a pain to look at, without some folks potentially feeling nauseated. Now, here is another clip from Maximilian Dude, who is another prominent content creator. Here is his Twitch stream, where he himself notes, man, the frame rate here, lots of stutter, way too many stutters.
Damn, getting little micro stutters all over the place in here, dude. Holy shit. This was the zone that I was assuming was going to have really big problems, and it kind of does.
Don't try anything funny.
Don't look at the frame rate in the top right, chat. Actually look at the game feed and wait for the little bumps to happen.
That's the thing. Tools don't reflect the frame rate stutters, but when Digital Foundry use their own tools...
Frame pacing. G-Sync doesn't help you guys out. G-Sync does... Wow, big bump.
Yeah, big bump right there, and then barely reflected here. Like, it showed 90 frames, but that seemed to dip well below 90 frames. Yeah, the data here is definitely not accurately reflecting what we're seeing on screen. And what Digital Foundry has analyzed based on their own testing, which, you know, has proven to be quite accurate, given that this is their area of expertise and has been for the past few years. Suffice to say that this package is not worth $70. Even if it ran fine, charging $70 for this would be very questionable. But then you add on top of that the frame rate issues, the severe lack of graphic settings, the timed exclusivity to a launcher and platform that is far less preferred than the significantly superior and feature-complete Steam. And you've got a situation where plenty of people feel insulted that Square Enix would sell such a compromised PC port given all the caveats that were there already with its price point and its choice of store exclusivity. And this certainly doesn't seem to be an isolated incident based on the fact that it wasn't just Digital Foundry who reported on this. Plenty of people out there, content creators in particular, are showing the game running in a relatively poor state, and you've got responses across social media, forums, and whatnot of your average player reporting similar things. Like below this post where this Digital Foundry crew member said that this is the worst AAA release I've seen on PC in a good long time, somebody else just said, I can confirm I've had the exact same issues in this same area. The first chapter ran butter smooth, the second chapter started to have some problems, but this part has micro stutters every 3 seconds. I thought maybe memory related problems, so I restarted the game and still had the issue. So yeah, definitely stay as far away from this PC port until we start seeing some updates that will provide more consistent performance results for people across the board and implement more graphic settings and make it a package that makes it the best version of the game to justify that $70 price point and the infusion of cash they got from Epic from that exclusivity deal. And keep your fingers crossed that Square Enix will get on this and take this seriously instead of abandoning this PC port as they've done in the past, and hopefully they'll rectify these issues sooner rather than later. And maybe the fact that it is Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is one of their biggest releases in the past few years, maybe the fact that this is such a major product for them will force them to fix this before negative word of mouth gets out of hand. But given Square Enix's history with PC ports, you just never know. So we'll see what happens. Until then, though, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the latest reports surrounding Final Fantasy VII Remake's PC port, whether you've bought it and played it yourself, and whether your experience has been similar or if it's been better than what's currently being reported. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.